Hey, Zero. What's up, buddy? What are you doing using my PC? Don't you have your own? It doesn't work like that, bud. Like, you're a professional, high-end player, and these guys are kind of just like starting out. And plus, you've got little arms and tiny little paws. Your keybinds are way different than what somebody else would need to use in order to succeed. You see what I'm saying? So I gotta kind of make this video to help them find their own key bindings so that it's the most comfortable for them. What you're using probably ain't gonna work for them, dude. Don't worry about it. Just let me get up in the chair, and I'll start doing it. It's not your problem, dude. You got people to frag. Get on out of here. God, he's so damn good. Hey! Dude, what the fuck? Hello everyone and welcome back. It is me, Nismospoolin, everyone's favorite internet nobody, and today we're going to go over a nice important topic in key bindings. Now, I've seen quite a few videos that just share their key bindings with other people, and that's just, that can get you only so far, but you're not going to be at your 100% best or your most optimum efficiency using somebody else's keybinds, because just like in that intro bit there, we're all different. We're not all the same. We have different length fingers, we have different length arms, we have different ability to stretch and move our fingers in certain ways. So copying somebody else's keybinds may not necessarily work. So what we're going to do today in this video is we're going to simply go over the best ways to figure out what's best and most comfortable for you. And sometimes that might be just default key bindings, sometimes that might be something a little bit different, but we're going to put everything together in one nice little pile, and we're going to sift through it together and figure out what key bindings you should be using. Clearly, we can't all be as stunning and beautiful and professional and handsome and well-rounded and properly trained as Zero, okay? We can't all be like that. We all have to start somewhere, and why not start today? Lots of people say that the best time to plant a tree is 10 years ago, or today. So, let's get started. So the best thing that you could do is load up into your game, figure out what game that you're wanting to play, try to stick to one game for now until you get this kind of like put together in a nice coherent way and you get nice and comfortable with things. And then once you get comfortable with the default layout of the game, then you can go into like a training grounds and you can start messing with things. And what I love to do first is I like to take anything that's completely unnecessary and get rid of it. So emote wheels, sprays, all the things that are just kind of novelty and not really necessary, I get rid of completely. I never use them. They're silly. I mean, you can remap them to something like really far away on your keyboard so you don't accidentally hit it or something like that, but I like to get rid of it completely because there's been games where I've been mid-game trying to get some stuff done and my finger will accidentally run over the key and I'll open the emote wheel or something like that, and it'll actually cause me to either lose a fight or just not be as efficient. what you should do is take everything unnecessary out, throw it out the window, and free up space for things that are necessary. If you're comfortable with where your sprint is on shift, you shift. If you're comfortable with your crouch being on C, you C. If you're comfortable with it being on control, use control. I like to, in different games, there are different ways to set up these kinds of things, right? In different games, they're defaulted to different places. So if you can take what you love about this game, or what you love about the key bindings that came default with this game, and switch them over to this game, you'll be more efficient, right? Because you're not relearning how to use these keys and all this other stuff. Another thing that's really important for you to remember is your mouse has extra buttons on it. It doesn't matter, unless you're using like a really generic, like Fisher-Price My First mouse, you're going to have some extra buttons on there, right? I like to map these to melee and lethal. So this would be my frag grenade, C4, Simtex, things like that. And then up here would be my melee. Now, some games don't have a quick melee option. You have to holster your weapons and pull out your fists to do melee, like in Apex Legends. So that frees up another button right here. So you can have lethal and tactical. So the front one could be flashbangs, smokes, things like that, or it could be your voice comms. So I like to keep my voice comms push to talk instead of just being open mic all the time, because when you get that one person that's in your group that's always open mic, then every noise that goes on in their room is going to be coming through the other player's headphones, and it's going to be harder for the other player to be able to hear like what's going on in the actual game if you've constantly got someone's dog barking or their mom telling them the dinner's ready in the background. You don't want that. Push to talk, better idea. So we've realized that our mouse has extra buttons. Now we've got our keyboard. Now, I use a 60% keyboard, has much less buttons. But I like how the keyboard is smaller, so I have more room on my desk to move my mouse around, because I like to use a really low sensitivity and I need a lot of mouse space. Lots of people like to use high sensitivity or other different sensitivities, and they're not worried about the size of their keyboard, so they have F keys and all these other keys that they can also bind to. Great, but the problem is your hand is only so big, right? So what I want you to do is I want you to take your hand and put it on your default keys, your W, A, S, and D keys, or wherever you use movement keys. I know some people that still use the arrows. Now, take that and put your hand flat to the keyboard with your thumb just on the other side of your spacebar and your pinky on the shift key. Now, take a piece of paper and write down everything that you need to use in a game and everything that you already have mapped that you're not going to move. So your W, A, S, and D keys that you use for movement, your strafe, your spacebar for jumping, your shift for sprint. Put those on in one column, the ones that you aren't going to change, and then take everything else that you need and you want to be able to get to quickly and put it in the other column. Now, take your fingers and just move to the easiest keys that you can get to. So Q, Z, X, C, E, R, F, V, things like that. You can rebind those keys to something that's more comfortable and faster to get to. So if you're playing a game that has things like ultimates, you can bind your ultimate to Q, or you can bind your ultimate to your mouse, and things like that. You want to make sure that the really important things that aren't default or locked in your locked in column are easy to get to. So ultimates, tactical, lethal, melee, crouch or slide. I never really use prone, even in games that have the prone mechanic. There are, in some Call of Duties, you can do dolphin diving and stuff like that. I never really liked it. Dolphin diving is something that a lot of controller players do, because you can bind it to things that are really easy to get to. Dolphin diving on mouse and keyboard isn't that efficient, and it's only good for fighting 1v1. If you get into a situation where you've got more players that are around you, dolphin diving really puts you in a really awkward position, because once you've gone all the way down to the ground and you're prone, now you've got to get up and move around, and the animation for getting up takes quite some time, and you're very predictable. Dolphin diving is really good for 1v1s, but when you're playing against multiple enemies, dolphin diving ain't that great. So I never really use prone. I use crouch, I use sprint, I use slides, and stuff like that. And I keep those on the left side of my keyboard. So escape through my number 6 button, YHB spacebar. That's my efficient side of my keyboard. And then anything that I don't really use very often, or things that I don't have like a small time window to use, like a frag grenade or a Simtex or something like that, I put all the way on the other side. So things that aren't that important for me to be opening in the middle of a fight, like the map, those emote wheels and stuff that we were talking about before. If you want to keep them bound to a key, you put them on that side of your keyboard. Score screen. God, I hate having the score screen, like in Valorant or Counter-Strike, on tab. Everybody uses tab. I take that completely out, and I put the score screen all the way over on P, O, or I, somewhere where it's completely out of the way, and if I'm scrambling with my hand, I don't accidentally hit it. Because like I've said before in other videos, I have carpal tunnel, and after a while, sometimes my fingers go numb, and I can accidentally fumble over keys. And it makes it so if I put these things that can interrupt my combat, and I put them far away, I'm less likely to stumble over them and ruin that combat experience for myself, because they're not in my way. So we've got all of that out of the way. So your map and all that other stuff all the way on the other side. You've got everything that's important on your left side and stuff like that. I even like to take escape, like your menu, things like that. I like to take that and unbind it from escape and put it somewhere else, because I can accidentally hit escape sometimes. And unless you're playing a game where you need to use escape to like cancel an animation or something like that, it's a terrible place for the menu screen to be. Escape is just like, I don't know. I put it all the way over on like equals or dash or something like that, backspace, something that's way out of the way, and I open up escape for something else, something more efficient. You can also unbind caps lock or bind caps lock to something else. You can bind tab, escape, all these things that are usually bound to other things, like on your desktop. You can bind them to things in game, so that you have more open keys for quick, efficient use. Another thing I like to do is I always like to make sure that my Windows keys are either removed from the keyboard entirely or locked out. Most gaming PCs or most gaming keyboards have the ability to lock the Windows key out, so that you can't accidentally hit it while you're playing. I like to take a keycap puller, and sometimes I completely remove the Windows key entirely, so that there is just no possibility that I can accidentally hit it. If there is a key like that you don't like, or is in your way, and you use a mechanical keyboard with removable keycaps, if it's something that you find yourself accidentally hitting a lot, and it's something that you don't want there, pull the keycap off. I do it all the time. A lot of games where I don't want to accidentally hit things, I'll just completely remove the key so I don't accidentally hit it. In games like Fortnite, I used a lot of mouse keybinds for that game. So ramps, walls, and then I would have like C for the rooftops and stuff like that. That way, everything that is really important is right there within reach, so that I can do it very, very quickly. In games like Fortnite, you want to be able to use your building ability as a shield. So if you're running from place to place and something happens out of the blue, you can throw up a wall and you can use it as a shield to get yourself into a nice, comfortable position and then prepare yourself for a gunfight. If someone pushes your box in that game, you have a little bit of time to put something together and put yourself into a good position, make sure that you're all reloaded and stuff like that before you push out and get into a fight. In games like Apex Legends, you don't have that ability to put up something to stop yourself from getting hit by something. That's what your shields are for. So you take a hit, you lose some shields, now you got to get to cover, and you've got to heal your shields back up and get into the fight. So you want your heals or your shields and your medkits to be on a close keybind in that game. So you want, usually in Apex Legends, I put my weapons on one key so that it loops. Instead of it being 1 and 2 to switch weapons, it's just 1. So I hit 1, pull out my main weapon. Hit 1 again, pull out my secondary weapon. Hit 1 a third time, it pulls my main weapon out again. That way, mid-fight, I'm not fumbling with 1, 2, 3 and stuff like that. And then I make sure to put melee all the way over at 5. So if I put my weapons away and I want to run faster, it's 5. And when I get into a situation where there is an enemy and I know that they're there, all I've got to do is tap 1, my weapons come out, I'm ready to fight. I feel like that's a way faster and way more efficient way to do that in Apex Legends, but you can do it on just about any key you want. There are a lot of players that use their keyboards in different positions. So there's the original, like, right in front of you keyboard layout, right, where your hand is straight. There's this little cockeyed thing that I use where it's at a slight angle from left to right. It goes upwards towards my monitor, and I like that because the way that your fingers are, right, your middle finger being your longest, your pinky being your shortest, with the keyboard at that angle, I can hit every key that I want without moving at all. With, like, my fingers rest nicely on these default keys. A lot of high-end players, like Counter-Strike players and stuff like that, will rotate their keyboard completely perpendicular with their chest, and they'll turn their arm like this and play like this. And a lot of players do that so that they have more mouse mat room for their mouse to roam about. Some people do it for that and so that they can use their pinky for more keys, for more keybinds. I don't have that problem because my fingers move quite well in that aspect, but some people like it because it's easier for them to move their arm across and get to different keys and stuff like that faster. Some people rebind their WAS and D keys in that situation so that it's easier for them to move and remember how to... It's easier for them to move in a more default way if they rebind their keys while their keyboard is perpendicular to their chest. But you don't have to do that. You don't see how a really high-level player or a pro player holds or has their keyboard set up or has their keybind set up and then just try to adapt it to you because you're like, oh my god, this person is such a great player. If I do that, I'm going to also be a great player. It will set you back years. Find out where you're comfortable originally. Find out where you want your keybinds to be. And then go from there. If you try it out and you like it being perpendicular to your chest, you think it's better, you think it's faster, you think it's more efficient, then it might be worth taking a couple of days off of playing the game and just getting used to it and figuring out exactly how that works for you. But for the most part, it's just not feasible to completely change the placement of your keyboard and stuff like that. Unless you're going to a lot of LANs and you're going to a lot of tournaments where you don't have a lot of desk space and you need to figure out a way to get more desk space with the peripherals that you have. That's the only time I would do something like that, is if I've been going to a lot of LANs and you don't have the ability to move stuff around. You've got this massive monitor stand on your desk. You've got these little walls. They put these little walls, these dividers between you and the other player, especially in BR games, so that you can't just like watch somebody's screen. So you've got these dividers and stuff like that, and it gets really cramped. Sometimes you want to be able to move your keyboard so that you're more comfortable. But for the average player sitting at home playing the game, you don't need to teach yourself like how to do that. You just need to get yourself really, really comfortable. Apart from that, apart from sharing my exact keybinds, this is the best way that I can get somebody to figure their stuff out and find out exactly where they need their stuff to be, because I'm not you, and I can't be there to sit behind you and tell you what's the best for you, because everybody's different. The only thing that I can possibly do from this position here is tell you what's the best part of the keyboard to use, what's the least used part of the keyboard, so that you can put other things all the way over there, and then kind of tell you like how I move my fingers and stuff like that. And I have different keybinds for just about every single game that I play. So I can't just go over every single keybind and everything that I do in every single game, or else we'll be here forever. And nobody wants that. Let's be honest. I really hope that this helped you out. Like, comment, and if you're new here, subscribe. And I'll catch you guys in the next one. Hopefully, very soon.